Um, Hello, my name is Maria Helena Carey, and I write a blog called The Hill is Home. And I am here today with two lovely ladies. Julie, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Julie Aronson, and I'm the Executive Director of CHAMPS, the Capitol Hill Chamber of Commerce, representing about 130 members here on Capitol Hill.
Wonderful. And today we have the pleasure of speaking with Ann Wilcox. Ann, please introduce yourself.
Yes, thank you. My name is Ann Wilcox. I'm the at-large candidate for the DC Statehood Green Party, so I'm running on that ballot line. I'm a longtime resident of DC. I came here in the early 80s and went to law school at American University. And I'm a lawyer, and I've lived in several neighborhoods around DC, including I love the city, and I love being involved in politics here. I was also on the school board, I should mention, from 94 to 98, representing Ward 2. So I do have that government experience.
Wonderful. Well, so without further ado, I will go ahead and ask you three questions, and Julie will ask you three questions, and then you'll get a chance to let people know how they can learn more about you and your campaign and how they can reach you. And we will put this in our social media channels.
Okay.
My first question is, in such a crowded field of candidates, how do you plan on standing out? Do so many candidates for at large give more better known names and an unfair advantage, do you think?
Right. I think it is a very crowded field. And when we're all together for one forum, as we just did one, it takes a long time for everyone to go through their questions. But obviously, I represent a party ballot line. So a lot of people know the Statehood Green Party. They know we stand for sort of progressive positions across the board in terms of affordable housing and health and so forth. So that's one way. I've also been around in the community for a while. As I said, I was a school board member. I also served on the Commission for Women under Mayor Sharon Pratt Kelly. So that was a long time ago. So I have been involved at various stages, and I think you just have to kind of, get your message out there.
Okay,
Doing
well,
your best. Yeah.
thank you. Just building on that, each ward council office handles constituent services inside the geographical area. How do you see the at-large office as more than just a backup when constituents cannot reach their ward council member? And how would you endeavor to raise the profile of the at-large office as more than just kind of, oh, and there's that one as well. Oh.
It's right. Oops, sorry. Okay, sorry about that. Yeah,
Okay.
the my phone dropped. The at-large council members obviously have a very broad portfolio. They can go anywhere in the city. They can visit Ward 8 or Ward 7. I live right now up in Ward 4, called Shepherd Park, near Walter Reed, which is actually undergoing some development now in the Walter Reed campus. But I think it's also helpful when at-large members carve out an area of specialty, like Alyssa Silverman, your neighbor on Capitol Hill, is a consumer advocate, and she does very tough oversight of government, and that's so important. Or Robert White, who's my neighbor up here, he sort of looks out for seniors and returning citizens. So I think each at-large council member can sort of carve out a specialty that they're known for, and try to get around to as much of the city as they can.
Okay, thank you. Now I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Julie.
Thank you for being with us today.
Okay.
A common concern of CHAMPS members is that it's hard to do business in DC. Licensing is hard, the bureaucracy is slow, and the agency databases don't always speak to each other. Many small business owners spend hours navigating the DC bureaucracy, and some say that they could never have started a business without having a partner with a full-time regular job. This hurts the prospective small business owner who may not be well resourced. So how would you use your position on the council to make small business ownership easier and more accessible?
Yes, I think small businesses are so important because a lot of times they're like a dream of someone, a lady who has a card shop or an art gallery. And they also serve a really important, function in our community, providing options, alternatives to the large chains, the Trader Joe's and those kinds of places. So small business is very important. I think that in the current COVID environment, the city council and the government has tried to provide the paycheck protection loans and tried to support small businesses so they can sort of stay afloat. I think property taxes are still a problem, in the current environment. But, we need to do everything we can to make sure that small businesses are able to keep their doors open. And they provide so much diversity to the community too. I love the small bookstores like the State Street Books. It's over on H Street near our
Solid
neighborhood.
state. Mhm.
Yeah, Solid State, right? Solid State. Yeah. So there's so many, those kinds of bookstores and small shops are really important, and we need to do everything we can to support you.
And tying into that, as the businesses are reopening in phase 2, sales for many of those storefront businesses and restaurants have dropped 40, 50, 60% from where they were last year, this time last year. The fixed costs remain the same, as you mentioned, taxes and rent, property tax. And businesses have spent the Paycheck Protection Act and also the DC microgrants. Those are gone. Businesses may be forced to close. So if you were on the council right now, what are the proposals that you might put forward to help our businesses continue to operate and employ people?
Right. Well, again, we need to try to find some emergency money to maybe try to keep unemployment going for the employees, and to provide some extensions of grants. The federal government might provide some additional grants. The idea has also been floated to try to repurpose some of the, allow the employees to work in other fields, like, they could be a contact tracer, or they could do something which helps during the short term, which kind of keeps them employed. But, obviously the basic costs of running a shop are still there for the owner. So I think we just have to do our best to allocate resources so that everyone is supported as much as possible.
Great, thank you. My last question is about parking, residential versus commercial parking on Capitol Hill and across the city. It can be a flashpoint. How to balance the parking among residents, customers, employees, and business owners is an age-old question. And where parking is in high demand, employees and DC service providers often have to absorb the tickets that they get as a cost of doing business. How would you approach this problem, and kind of what's your thought process behind it?
Right. Oh, and I actually meant to mention something else about helping small businesses. I think that the proposals to split DCRA are really important. The idea that DCRA permitting would be separate from enforcement, I think that would help in the long run. So that's just one thing I wanted to mention. But parking is a real problem on Capitol Hill, as it is in Adams Morgan or any other dense neighborhood. Obviously, you have to have some residential permit parking so people who live there can park, but then you need some spaces that are for people who are visiting the shops. I think that they should have more of a partnership with, say, the Union Station. People could park there, then you'd have a little trolley bus or ways for people to be transported up to the shopping areas. I also think that Capitol Hill is very well served by Metro, because you've got the 3 stops on the Blue Line, between Capitol South, Eastern Market, people to, the Hill Center at night, or the Folger Theater. So, but I think shuttle buses might be helpful. I'm also a big fan of Uber. I actually don't own a car right now, but so Uber is important for me. But, I think there needs to be a combination of things. Up in Columbia Heights, they've used the DC USA large shopping or parking garage as a way to serve the area. So maybe something could be done with Union Station that would be similar.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much. So I think that this brings us to our last question. What would you name the regional football team? And do you support a return to RFK Stadium? And if you do, what ideas do you have about that?
Right. Well, I'm kind of glad, I know that there's a big debate in the Hill East area about, whether it should be affordable housing or, playing grounds and that sort of thing. And I think there should be more diversity there. It's hard to see a stadium which is only used literally for, 8 weekends a year to be solely for that purpose, with all the parking lots and so forth. So I don't feel strongly about bringing the Washington football team back there. I do hate to see historic buildings get torn down, whether it's RFK or like when they tore down the old Washington Post building. I mean, that's part of history, but, we have to move on. So again, I don't feel strongly about bringing them back, but I do think the name one of the players, Fred Smoot, is promoting the Red Hawks name because he thinks that, the Hawks could be, howling or whatever. So I guess I'll support Red Hawks and see if we can get support for that. I did like the Red Tails, which is the Tuskegee Airmen, but then again, we're still we're using people as our mascot, and I don't think that's right. So I would go with Red Hawks. So that's my final answer.
Well, that's wonderful. Thank you so much for talking to us and, for taking the time. And if people want to know more about you or your campaign or reach out, how can they do that?
Yes, right. Well, I'm a Statehood Green candidate. So the Statehood Green Party has a website with all, profiles of all of us. I also have I ran for mayor 2 years ago. So I'm Ann Wilcox for mayor. I have a website there, and I'm on Twitter, AnnWNDC. So you can find me there. And as I mentioned to you real quickly, I did live near Folger Park on Capitol Hill many years ago, but I just really still love visiting the neighborhood.
It is, the Hill is a wonderful home, I have to say. Thank you again so much.
Okay, thank you for having me.